Today I will be showing you my project file for my lyric video for Everything Black by Unlike Pluto. So I had someone ask in the comments for the project file, and I figured it might be useful for a lot of people to see the project file and see how it was made and what all's going on here. Now you're gonna have to work with me here because I do have some of these files missing. I couldn't really find them. It escapes me why that was the case, but okay, so we don't have some of the footage here. That's fine. Beginning, not much is special here. It's just, you know, fading in. Everything black. It comes in, and I actually applied a mask. This is one of the few masks that I used in this entire video, because when I was making this video I didn't really know what masks were. I learned that a little bit later in the next video that I did. This is a mask that I used to make this fade in like that. It's basically just, if I highlight this, you can see there it is, there's the mask. The expansion is turned up a lot, so that's what this is. This outer dotted blue line is the expansion where the edge of the mask stops. And the feather is also turned up as well, so it's not, you know, too sharp, the edges. So it's kind of got a fade out effect to it. Nothing too special about that. So we're gonna move on here. What's happening here? Okay, this part, weakest part of the entire video in my opinion, because this was before. Okay, so going into making this video, I wasn't really sure what the overall style was gonna be until I got like maybe 2 days into making this video. 2 days into making the video, I got to like this point.
Wait for you to come around.
I got to that point, and then I was sure, like, okay, this is what the rest of the video is gonna be. These smooth movements and these diamond iris transitions for all the text and stuff, and that's what the video is gonna be like. That's gonna be the style. But here I wasn't really following that style, and I wish I had time to redo this, but unfortunately there was a due date, and I couldn't really change much. I might want to do in the future. But anyway, this part, I don't really like how all the text is like slowly moving over each other, like here, how it's kind of overlapping. These pieces of text here I don't really like either. So then you got this part here, which I was really proud of because I got the ink going in front of the moon. And actually, I wanted there to be a lot more ink throughout this entire lyric video, but what happened was the website that I was using called Video Blocks, the standard version, you have to pay for a subscription, but the standard subscription doesn't really have very many options in terms of ink videos. This is basically what it is. It's just a piece of stock footage of just red ink. It wasn't even black ink. So I had to first apply the levels, kind of. I don't even know why I did that. It's just, so then I had to apply color balance first to get it to be somewhat black and white, and then I had to do the levels. That's why I had to do levels, to kind of get it a little bit darker. And then I had the color key. I actually did the levels after the color key, which was smart. I probably noticed that it was messed up if I didn't do that. Color key, I took out all the white so you could see the moon through it. And then if you didn't have the Gaussian blur, it's kind of like there's some rough edges, but if you applied the Gaussian blur, then actually that doesn't do too much. I don't know why I added that. Whatever. Okay, so we're moving on. And another thing you might notice is at this point, from this point on throughout the video, I'm using the iris effect a lot. And sorry about some of these text issues again. Some of the text fonts are not there. This iris effect is another thing that I used a lot, and it's nothing on my part editing wise that's doing that. It's actually just a if you look in iris under video transitions, iris diamond, this is the effect that I used, the transition that I used for all these. The only thing that I did to make it look a little bit more clean and together, if you click on any of these transitions, you'll see that these come up. If you mess with these knobs, then you can mess with where the transition starts and stops and when it starts and stops. And if you mess around with that, you can eventually get these lines to line up on each word. So that's all I did there, and I did that all throughout the rest of the video too, with whenever I used the iris transition. Yeah, something to note, you can do that. You can mess with transitions and you can edit them. Even though they are effects, you can change them if you want. So moving on, ink is covering the moon, yeah. And then here is the first time I messed around with real velocity. in the entire video. And in all fairness, in all honesty, this would have been a little bit better to do in After Effects, but it would have been a little bit more time consuming because dealing with text is a little bit easier in Premiere Pro than it is in Adobe After Effects. It's just a hassle in Adobe After Effects to work with this much text. But the only reason it would have been better to work with in After Effects is if the closer this word gets, you can see the blurrier the edges of the text get. And the reason for that, if you don't know this, Adobe After Effects is a vector-based program, which means like if this text were to get closer to the camera as much as it is now, in After Effects, this edge wouldn't be blurring. It'd just stay the same. It wouldn't blur at all because it's a vector-based program. It doesn't matter how close it gets to the camera, it's just going to keep refining the edge. Whereas this, if this word keeps getting closer to the screen, well, not even this word, if anything gets closer to the screen, it's going to keep getting blurrier and blurrier. Whereas in After Effects, with text, it won't do that. So that's one of the only reasons why this would have been better to do in After Effects. But even if this is slightly blurred, it doesn't really matter because naturally when things get closer to your eyes, they blur out. So it doesn't really affect things too much. It's kind of natural that this happens. But whatever, so that happens. And then this, I use this a lot throughout the entire video, using black to white transitions. And it's a really lazy but effective way of doing it, because if everything, so this grows, the reason that this word comes to the camera like that and takes up the entire screen is so that we can get to this white screen here. And the thing about a white screen is you can do anything with a white screen. You can transition into anything you want. In this case, I'm going to pull out of this transition here, and this is just stock footage. I'm just going to tell you right now, a lot of these transitions and a lot of these graphics here are not mine. They are stock footage. I'm not that good. Although I have tried some of these transitions and succeeded in some cases, I have not used them in any videos yet. Just going to put that out there. And another thing is, I said that last example of a mask over at the beginning of the video was one of the only times I've used a mask in this entire lyric video. I was not lying. I'm telling the truth. And again, there's missing footage in the background, sorry. But yeah, there's like no masks for the rest of this video. Even though some parts it might look like there's masks, there's really not. So yeah, it's pretty standard stuff here, not really much to go over here. This one, I really hated too, this part, but this was one of the last parts that I did before I had to turn this project in. The only reason I don't like this part is just because I didn't really do anything velocity-wise with these. Even though I knew how to do velocity at this point, since this is one of the last parts that I did in the entire video, I just didn't want to take the time, so I kind of corner cut with this because I think this was the day of turning it in. So I just kind of threw the velocity off to the side. I decided not to do it, so I just did it with the really robotic movements. It doesn't look too bad, and I blurred them out as they're getting closer to your eyes, and it's kind of appropriate since there's an eye in the background. And then there's this part, and this is one of my favorite parts, probably my second favorite, well, my third favorite part. I don't know. I'm just gonna say this is one of my favorite parts in the entire video, and this was actually happened on accident. Let's just go through this once. But I won't sleep tonight. So that, I'm really proud of that part because what I like to do a lot is sorry, there's someone texting me. What I like to do a lot is not just match things up with the beat of a song, but go a step further and matching things up to individual instruments in the song that I hear. So let me just walk through this. So, but I won't. Now, I don't know if you notice, this might just be something that's unique to me and how I think about this, but the way these words come in are actually mirroring what this piano does at the beginning. I don't know if you could see that. That might just be a way that I think about going about this, but the way that piano kind of comes in at the beginning of this bar, I kind of emulated that movement in the music with the movement and kind of integrated it into the movement of the text. It's kind of hard to explain. It's kind of just the way I think about it. So this is kind of emulating the style of the piano, and then this next part, yeah, the sleep isn't really doing much there. It's just there. It's not really doing anything concerning how the music is playing. It's not really, doesn't really fit in with the music all that much, other than that it's on beat. Okay, so then here, this happened on accident, but once I realized what had happened and how it was lining up with the music, I kept it. And if you're the kind of person who has to know why something works, to know how it works, and to actually do it, you are exactly like me. Because if I don't know how, I can know how something works and still not know how something works. If that makes sense, I have to know why something works before I can understand how it works. Like, I can know that it works, but that's not enough. That's not enough for me knowing that it works. I need to know why it works in order to know how to do it. This was something, when I saw the effect of this, I wanted to do it again, but I didn't know how I did it this first time, so I tried to figure out why it worked. So I believe this is the first time I used lens distortion, and I ended up using lens distortion to my advantage the rest of the video. This is when the kick drum comes in. And I like to use lens distortion with a kick drum because generally the sound of a kick drum, I don't know what it is, but when I think of a kick drum, I think of lens distortion in terms of effects. If I were to use any effect, I would use lens distortion when it comes to kick drums. I don't know why. It's just what I think fits best. So when the kick drum first hits, you've got this lens distortion happening. And this is something I added that I was sure that no one would notice. The middle of the word sleep starts moving independently from the rest of it, and it's a transition. One of these down here, I forget what it is. It's some sort of slide. I think it's called band slide. I might be wrong. Yeah, it's band slide. So that's what this word sleep is doing. But what I did was, in order to introduce the word tonight, I kind of slid it in to the shot using this middle bar here. So it's kind of a smooth transition the way it moves through this middle part here, through the middle part of the word sleep. I knew no one would see that the first time they watched the video, or even any time they watch the video, unless I were to point it out like I am now. You would notice that, unless you're just really analytical when it comes to things like this. Yeah, so that's why I did that, and it was just a little, I tend to focus too much on details, even when I know people aren't going to see them. For my sake, I just focus on way too many details, and it ends up taking me quite a while. I'm trying to work around that. I'm trying to get out of that habit, because that can actually be damaging in terms of deadlines and stuff if you're being too detailed. Yeah, I've been trying to work out of that, but then at this point I started realizing what effect velocity can have on the flow of a song, and not a flow of a song, but the flow of a video such as this, like a lyric video that moves along with the music. So I chose to have the velocity be one of the main driving factors of this entire video, and this is one of the first places I really implemented that, realizing what I was doing, because the other times I was kind of just doing it because smooth motions, I like that better than the jerky motions, and I already knew how to do velocity in Adobe After Effects at this point, but this was when I was just learning that it was possible in Premiere Pro. I did do a tutorial on that in case you wanted to watch it, so I'm not going to go too into depth how I did the velocity part. There is a tutorial that I did on velocity in Premiere Pro. I'll have it down in the description if you want to watch that. It's pretty useful, but I do go into depth how all that works in that video. So the kick drum hits again here, and I made the word tonight bounce. And this, one of the things I wish I would have done was, instead of having this keep rotating to the left or to the right, I would have preferred it, as soon as it hits this point here, rotate back this way and then come towards the screen. But that's just me. When you view it quickly like that, it doesn't really bother me all that much. But when I'm going frame by frame, it kind of makes me cringe. But that's just me. Most other people would disagree, but whatever. So this part, I'm not even going to address these parts because there's nothing going on here. There's no masks or anything. It's just all stock footage and the text. Like here, there's no masks. There's no masks. And one thing I did do here to kind of make these words blend in with the background and what's going on with the stock footage and these box transitions was, in order to make these two words go away, to introduce these next words here, I made a box transition. I believe it's still an iris transition. I think it's just box here, iris box, I believe. Let me just make sure. Yeah, it's iris box. Kind of fits with, there's box transitions happening in the background, so you're naturally going to have a box transition to get these words out of there. Should come with me. And then this part, there's no mask here. It's just, if you look closely, these words, I'll take you, they're just appearing. Like, again, this was a long time ago I made this video, and I mean, I know it's only several months. I actually don't recall. I know this is 2017, so it has been several months but I believe this was like November of last year, probably November, if I had to guess. So yeah, not much happening here. I hate this. I mean, it goes away when it increases because I'm going at half resolution here. You can really see it at half resolution, but you see that band at the top? That's just the result of the lens distortion. So not much happening here. Just more iris transitions, the diamond iris transitions. More stock footage of the smoke. Nighttime, blah blah. Repeated because I was corner cutting a lot in this video because for the sake of time. Okay, so now we're getting into one of my other favorite parts of the entire video. This part is one of my favorite parts in the entire video, alongside the other one that I showed you. The lens distortion really accentuates things in this particular piece of footage. So it comes in here with the words here: blackbird, black moon, black sky, black light, black. I've heard this all 1,000 times. You get sick of the song you're making a lyric video for very quickly. So you better believe I know this word for word. And there's not that many lyrics anyway, so you know. So this part here is my favorite part, one of my favorite parts in the entire video, the way this all flows.
Black everything black, black heart, black keys, black diamonds, black out, black everything black.
And I actually like that part where I did the inverted thing. That's the part that I was trying to do in the other parts here and here, somewhere around here. Those were the parts where I did the twitchy thing. That's what I was trying to do. But I did it right here.
Black out, black everything black, black everything, everything all, black everything, everything all, black everything, everything all, black everything, everything black.
Yeah, and this part, not much to see here. This is one of my least favorite parts, mostly because I was trying to do motion tracking and I was failing epically. You see, it's obviously slipping. I was trying to do motion tracking, and it's a lot easier in After Effects, but I couldn't do it in Premiere Pro, so I tried to emulate it, and I failed epically. But since everything's going so fast, you can't really notice it. Yeah, my least favorite part of the entire video for sure. And, you know, it's instrumental, so there's not much you can do in terms of moving the words around, because there's not really any words here, so I just had to use the word black over and over again. So you've got this shot again, and there's a picture of a tower here, I'm pretty sure. I believe that's what it was. And this part's, you know, pretty standard. This was just like a dissolve. I'm trying to remember what it was. I don't know why I'm looking over here to find it. It's in here. These things. Gradient wipe. Yeah, so this is a gradient wipe transition. Bringing all these words in here. As soon as the word mind comes in, I believe it is a turbulent distortion effect. And this is a pretty standard distortion effect. I don't want to go too much into what that is. So yeah, that's how that worked. So we get to this hallway part here, which I'm not really sure entirely what I did here. I can't remember. Okay. So, you know, just standard stuff here, more transition stuff. Another invert thing. This part, I don't know what... Okay, so I've always meant to look into this one. It looks like it's motion tracked here, but it's actually not. It's an optical illusion. Okay. Yeah, I see what's happening here. So everything is scaling up at different speeds, so it gives like a perspective effect. And then I don't know. No, it is an optical illusion because it looks like all of the words are kind of like moving side to side a little bit, but they're actually not. It's an optical illusion. Yeah, so this part was pretty cool. I had this kind of like black hole stock footage. It doesn't look like a black hole at all, but sure, we'll pretend it looks like a black hole. So we go through this here. You've got these words here, this text, and it's slowly rotating, and it's in case you don't notice, I've got a lens distortion effect again affecting this text here. It's moving the outer edges of the text outward, and then everything that's in the center, it's pulling it inward. So, you know, it kind of emulates what it would look like if it were going into a black hole, which was pretty cool. Now, the only thing I didn't like about this was, watch this T here. You see how it's like jittering? That's one thing I discovered about the lens distortion is if you're going to use it in this way, never use it slowly. because if you use it slowly, it's incremental. The value for the lens distortion is incremental. So like if I go frame by frame here, you can see it's jittering because it's incremental. So here's 89%, here's 90%, here's 91%. That's what it looks like. Here's what 92% looks like. It's not gradual enough, at least. So if you want to use that effect, use it quickly. That's just an example of where you would not use lens distortion, if you're going to use it really slowly and gradually like that. And then this is my favorite part of the video. Velocity does not just apply to position and scale, like I was using it previously. Here I started to experiment with other effects, which this effect that made the perspective change on that word black and made it flip like that. In case you wanted to use that effect, I believe that is called Basic 3D. Yes, it is. So this is what it's called. It's under perspective. It's called Basic 3D. Basically what it is you've got swivel here, which does that, swivels everything, you know, like it would. It's called swivel. Then you got the tilt. You got these other things here. I don't use those. I just use the swivel and the tilt. But it's pretty interesting how it works, and you can actually, well, if I put this back here, I put those things there. You've got the velocity here too. It works just the same. Works just the same as doing the same thing with position and scale with velocity. It does the same thing, operates the same way. It's just with a different plugin. And then from here on, there's nothing special about the rest of this video. It's just copy pasted because again, I was working on a deadline, and I mean this is just for efficiency's sake as well, because you can be super extra. A lot of people have called me super extra. And as much as that may be true at sometimes, here I was really not feeling it. This was around that time when I was just like, okay, I gotta get this video done. This is driving me crazy. And the deadline is like tomorrow, and I don't want to do something super extra and just like do an entirely different thing for this same portion of the song that's literally the exact same thing. So I just said, screw it, we're just gonna copy paste it and we'll be done. And that's all I want to point out about this project. And you could see it's pretty intense, everything that's happening here, and yeah, it's pretty unorganized. And another thing, all of these would be nested and like set in nice neat little piles, all nice and neat in like 2 straight lines if I were organized. That's how that would be. But I am not organized, and that's not how I work, so I just keep it in this really intense, chaotic layout here, and I like that. So that's all I want to go through with this project. Sorry if there were a couple things I didn't cover that you were hoping I would cover, but I really hope this helped at least a little bit. This video ended up being really long, so that's all. In conclusion, this video was made a very long time ago. I am noticing my mistakes more and more as time goes on. I'm noticing more and more mistakes with this, but in conclusion, it doesn't really matter if you notice mistakes. As long as you know what the mistakes are and you know not to make those mistakes again, you're fine. If you're seeing things that were wrong with your previous projects and you feel bad, don't. That's a good thing because that shows that you're improving, and that's all that matters. So, thank you guys for watching. I will see you in the next video.